Greetings, this is Charles Darwin, and I want to tell you about a book, the like of which you may never see again. It was a book published in 1961 by William O. Douglas. It's called My Wilderness East to Katahdin. And in this book, it was written in 1961, as I say, these were the essays of a man who did a lot of hiking. He hiked in wilderness areas all over North America. He hiked the entire Appalachian Trail, though not, as I understand, all at one time. And he was very observant. Wherever he went, he noticed the trees and the wildflowers and the birds. And he described the streams and the rock formations and the mountains. He was a very observant man and fills this book with an incredible amount of observant detail. Now, this was before the beginning of the modern environmental movement, back when the focus of science was to blast man into outer space and to promote industrial production, even while dumping the wastes in the rivers. But he pointed out a number of problems that weren't just direct problems, but even indirect problems caused by many of the practices that were carried out at that time. For instance, it was common practice for, at government expense, poison bait to be dropped out of airplanes in order to get rid of such things as wolves. But Douglas pointed out that there were many indirect effects of that, that as a result of poisoning the wolves, we also poisoned other animals, which resulted in entire effects on ecosystems. Also, one of his special pet peeves was ranchers out west who rented federal land at a very low rate and then proceeded to consider it to be their own private property and react as if it's their own private property, even though it was government land, belonged to the taxpayers and therefore belonged to me as much as it did to them. Now, let me read you a few quotes from this book. If we make conservation a national cause, we can raise generations who will learn that the earth itself is sacred. Now, that's sort of a feeling that you would expect to have from later environmentalists. That's not something you would expect to see printed in 1961. Once a person breaks through to the level where love of beauty is the ideal, he will worship the rocks and plains that are America. America isn't just a place where America has cities and American people, but also the landscape of America upon which we depend. Then he will look at a tuft of grass with awe, for it has the secret of chlorophyll that man hardly comprehends. The miracles of spring, the songs of birds, even the discovery of a lone harebell in the litter of a forest floor will fill him with reverence. Poets and philosophers have seen this transformation. A line in the Jewish prayer book states the idea concisely: that which nourishes the roots of the grass blade also attains fulfillment in the soul of man. That's a very advanced quote for 1961. There's another quote about the ranchers out west. Free room and board at the expense of the people. This is public land that belongs to everyone, yet we let a few private interests exploit it. The trouble is that a permittee who has the right to run sheep on public land pretty soon begins to think he owns the range. Take it away from him or cut down on the number of sheep or cattle he can graze or increase the rental, and he hollers as if his property has been confiscated. That sounds like the very thing that's occurring out west right now in the Sagebrush Rebellion, of which we have seen recent examples. And then, when he talked about the poisoning, you know what the federal men did? They poisoned the mice and squirrels. Now, they were trying to poison wolves, but they ended up poisoning the mice and squirrels also. Now, what happened? The poison killed the blackbirds and the doves. Then what happened? The grasshoppers came in and got to be a real danger because they had no natural enemies. Now, what the federal men did then, they used more spray to kill the grasshoppers. So you use poison to mess up the ecosystem, and then you use more spray to try to deal with the problems that you have created by the use of the spray in the first place. These are rather advanced ideas that most people think emerged into the national attention with Silent Spring by Rachel Carson. But this book came first. Who was William O. Douglas, anyway? Well, do the black robes maybe give you an idea? This was a justice of the Supreme Court of the United States. He was a justice on the Supreme Court longer than anyone else has been, from 1939 until 1975. And today, you don't have any voices like that in government. You have even the environmentalists being more practical. And even the liberals seem to think that the world is just a stage upon which the human drama acts. But if we're going to be sustainable into the future, we're going to have to learn some of the lessons that were obvious to William O. Douglas over 50 years ago. And recognize that we have to take care of nature because that is where our life comes from. Wish we had a Supreme Court justice like that today. And it doesn't look like we're going to anytime soon. This is Charles Darwin. Tally ho, and ho.